Welcome back, guys. I hope I'm starting to learn this software that I'm using to do these live videos. And hopefully I don't mess it up again this week, but I'm getting a little better each week. So that's a win in my book. First and foremost, I want to thank anyone for joining this call, this live video while it's live, or for those that are watching it later on. I truly appreciate your viewership. It means the world to me. In fact, as I look back at my channel and look at now, I've done 3. This is now my 4th live video. I love looking at just to see what's happening and if I'm actually getting traction, if people are actually enjoying the content. So please leave a comment and let me know if you like this style or this format of video. But in the first video, I had 167 people tune in. In the second video, 3 weeks ago, I had 493 people. Last week was 710. So maybe today we get 1,000, who knows? But hopefully this type of content and this format at which I'm delivering it is really helpful. And that's ultimately my goal. And also, I really love sharing relevant content for one specific reason. I help people move to and move within the state of Utah each and every single day. And I take it really seriously upon myself to know that it's my duty and my job to know this market and know what's happening and know what's coming to the point where nobody can contend with the level of knowledge that I have around what's happening in the state of Utah. And I feel confident that I know that stuff because I put my 10,000 hours of research in up to this point, and I do so regularly each and every week to make sure I'm up to speed. And I do all of this for you. And hopefully it comes through in these videos because that's exactly why I do it. My goal is to make this as informative and educational as possible so that you can find either the right spot to move to in Utah, or if you're moving from out of state, to make sure that you're finding the right place and that you have realistic expectations. So I wanted to share, by the way, drop a comment if you have any questions or anything to share, and absolutely drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to see where you're watching from as well. But I wanted to share something really quick. There was somebody, Julie, left a comment on my channel right before this video went live. And she said this: I wish you'd stop telling people to move here. We've already lost much of our camping areas and our freeways are atrocious. Now because of it, we're becoming Los Angeles, California. And she goes on and she just says, too many people have moved here, and the people that live here and have lived here their whole lives just don't like it. And I can absolutely empathize with this sentiment. I can understand where people are coming from wholeheartedly. I am a Utah native. I was born in 1978. I'm now 46 years old. And from the time that I was born in 1978, where Utah had 1.3 million residents, to today, where we have over 3.6 million residents, we've seen a massive increase in growth. And so you can't drive around the city and see open swaths of land with pastures and farmland and stuff like that. That's just not going to happen. Those days are long behind us, and Utah is growing, and it will continue to grow. I also want to share that I don't sugarcoat things on my channel for a very important reason. I don't want people to only get one side of the story. I actually share the negatives as well, because my hope is that if I'm sharing the negatives, not just the positives, you'll know if this is not the right place for you, so that you don't make the mistake of moving here if it's indeed not the right place for you. So I think that's a huge component as well, in terms of why I share the content that I share. Let me also just kind of go over another element of why I do content on Utah specifically. It's not to entice people to move here, it's to educate the people that are already choosing to move here. I'm not one to think that I have any great power over people to make them make this massive transition and pack up their belongings and move from one state to another. I don't believe that I have that level of influence, nor do I think that I ever will. And that's okay. That's not why I'm here. I'm not trying to convince people to move to Utah. What I am trying to do is educate you so that you know the struggles, the pros, the cons, the good things, the bad things, and everything in between, so that if you do make the move here, number one, you make the right choice for you and your family, but you also do so knowing that you didn't miss out on something, and you know if this is the right place for you before you actually land here and make this move. That's my goal. And so I actually appreciate these types of comments. It keeps things real, and I absolutely love it. So if you've got negative things to say, please drop those down below too. In fact, today in this live video, I'm going to talk about something that I've received a lot of negative comments about, and I actually totally understand where the other people are coming from, and I'm open to conversation. I would love to hear how you believe these things affect not only Utah, but just people in general. So we're going to talk about this. So today, I first want to talk about the premise of this video is what's happening at the point of the mountain development. So you'll see on the thumbnail of this video, it's titled, "What's the Point?" Well, the point is a development in the south end of the Salt Lake City metropolitan area. I'm going to share my screen really quick with you right here so that you can see this. Hopefully I'm doing this correctly and you can see this. But here we see the Salt Lake City metropolitan area. And if I change this over to satellite view, you can see we're surrounded by mountain ranges to the east, as well as mountains to the west. These mountains to the west are the Ochre Mountains, and the ones to the east are the Wasatch Mountains. And these two mountain ranges come to a point right here at the southern tip of Utah, Salt Lake County. And we've always, for decades and decades, called this area the point. So it's the point of the mountain, but in short, the point. And this is the one spot that is the passageway from Salt Lake County into Utah County and the Provo metropolitan area. So this area has always been known as the point. And there's a massive development happening right here in this area, this region. And it's all of this land that you see all right in here, tucked right up against I-15. And this new highway, this older highway that's been now converted to a freeway in Bangerter Highway. All of this land is the former site of the Utah State Prison. And the Utah State Prison has gone through, the process of being completely demolished and relocated. A new prison was built right up next to the Great Salt Lake, just northwest of the Salt Lake City International Airport. You would actually never know it's there unless you actually drive there. But the old prison was built right here in the heart of Draper. And this is an incredible area. It's super desirable for commercial use as well as residential. And the forethought that went into this development and the fact that we needed to do this was happening for many, many years because the old prison was in disrepair. It was actually going to cost more money than it was worth to fix it. It would have had to been torn down anyway. And this was a good opportunity to open up some of that land. And I understand a lot of people believe that opening up that land for development enriches the developers and politicians and everybody else. But I believe that the point is a prime development. It's huge. It's over 600 acres, but it's got a lot of things to love in terms of what they're actually doing there. But it also has a lot of things that people are not loving right now. So let me share my screen and show to you what this development's all about. So this development known as the Point is actually one of those 15-minute cities. And I want to bring this up because a lot of people have left a lot of comments in my videos about the negativity and the problems with these 15-minute / smart cities. And I'm curious what your thoughts are. If you know anything about them, there's certainly things to be concerned about, especially surrounding the topics of privacy and data and everything else, which I think we need to be cognizant of in every regard in modern life. But this development is huge. And as you scroll down, you can see this is the actual image or rendering of the development known as the Point. And there's some key statistics here at the bottom. It's going to have just over 2.3 million square feet of office space, nearly 500,000 square feet of retail space and entertainment space, including I don't know if it's an amphitheater or an indoor concert venue, but one of the two. It's going to have one of those two options. And there's also going to be 380,000 square feet of hospitality and 3,300 multifamily units. Now, almost every unit in this development is going to be rented, not owned. And this is where a lot of the conversation begins because, as Americans, as Utahns, we take a lot of pride in ownership of the areas or the place that we live. And I think, especially for me as a real estate professional, I believe that we should strive to own things. And this is where a lot of the conversation goes in terms of the negativity around this. And I'm curious what your thoughts are. The negativity really starts with the fact that the government doesn't want us to own anything. And I completely respect that opinion. I think we as a people should own everything that we can, especially the place in which we live. But the other concern is surrounding data and other problems with respect to privacy. So the development here is going to be state-owned land, and it's, I believe, for 99 years. This particular parcel of land is going to be leased to the building partners, the developers, so that they can build this out and properly manage it and build it out and lease everything out and make this a profitable venture. But the concerns surrounding it, especially for those that live in the suburbs around this area throughout the entire state of Utah, they're super concerned with where are we going with this? Where are we going with these 15-minute walking cities? Are we not going to be able to drive our car? Are we eventually going to have, street signals that are monitoring us and spying on us and showing our license plate number and finding us if we drive, all those things. And those are very valid concerns. I personally think that the most valid of all surrounds privacy and data governance. I think that the smart city, with all of the technology that comes with it, could definitely overuse and overcollect and miscollect a lot of that data, as we've seen time and time again with especially tech companies misusing our data, let alone retailers and stuff like that lose our data to hackers. I think it's really important that these Utah projects, they adopt very strict data minimization, clear consent between people that live there and what they're consenting to. We don't want that experience to be kind of like we found on social media where you don't even know truly what you're consenting to. But we also want public oversight from day one. We want some sense of accountability to make sure that these 15-minute cities don't become a way to strip away our freedoms. And that's the main concern. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. And I can't talk about one of these developments without talking about the other. There are two developments in Utah that are truly fitting the bill in terms of these 15-minute cities. And I wanted to share the other one just for a brief moment as well. The other one is just south of this particular one, and it's just about 20 minutes south in the city of Vineyard, right along the I-15 corridor. In fact, this is an image of that development known as Utah City. And if I go to the map, if I just go down south just a little bit and go right next to Utah Lake along the I-15 corridor, this is the parcel of land that is, again, about 600 acres of land that's being currently developed into another 15-minute / smart city with a lot of rental units and other things. Now, granted, they're making these urban core centers really attractive by adding, shopping, even high-end shopping, as well as nice restaurants and concert venues and things like this to make sure that it's really appealing, whether that's to retain people to actually want to live there, or maybe it's just selling the concept to overlook the negatives around these types of communities. We'll see how this plays out. Now, the point, it's funny because these areas that are currently being developed, they're areas that were used for other purposes. And there's a reason why these are some of the last large parcels of land to be developed in Utah County and Salt Lake County, right next to and adjacent to the I-15 corridor and the population center, is number one, obviously the state prison, which we talked about in the north up in Salt Lake County. Down here in Utah County, though, Utah City is being built upon this land that used to be the site for an old steel mill. Now, this steel mill was in operation throughout my entire childhood into adulthood, and it was a major pollutant, both in air and water and in Utah Lake. But that steel mill, Geneva Steel, has been dismantled, destroyed, and they are currently cleaning up all of this land. I believe it's actually a Superfund site that is requiring the cleanup of this land. But this is another one of those developments. So I'm curious what your thoughts are in terms of, are you concerned about these types of developments? Do you feel like they're going to strip away your freedom? Time will tell. I don't know. But here's what I do think. I think that these communities also offer an upside. They offer a lot of options for people that don't have the ability to go buy a home. And we're going to talk more about housing affordability here in just a few minutes. But they also provide other amenities and a way of life and a lifestyle that's simply more attractive to younger people today. The younger generations, as much as older generations love to always dog on and talk negatively of the younger generations, I think there's a really cool thing happening with the younger generations where they really truly prioritize freedom as well as lifestyle over obtaining things, so to speak. And maybe that's a product of the fact that things, including luxury homes or cars and things like that, are just getting out of control in terms of pricing and the lack of ability to actually afford those things. People are putting their emphasis or their sights on something else, and it's lifestyle. It's how do I want to live and how do I want to experience living? And I think that's a really good thing. I think that's really a positive that comes from this. One of the things that really stuck out to me as I do a lot of research around these communities is going back up north to the point. The Point has some really unique amenities that are going to be built, including a vertiport. They're already pre-wiring everything for vertical taxis. So air taxis are a real thing, and all the electrical infrastructure is already designed into the building of this community already. You can see the site here before they started, before they had everything completely torn down. But there's also a big push for drone delivery. And so as we talk about the amenities of these particular areas and what they're going to provide, it's not just, walking to the grocery store or the market and getting the things you need and not have to drive there. There's other things and other reasons why they're becoming increasingly popular as well. Now, on the topic of housing affordability, this is why these communities are being built. There wouldn't be such a demand for these if we didn't need rental units. And, 30, 40 years ago, all we built here in Utah in terms of apartments were these standardized, cookie cutter apartment complexes. They kind of all looked about the same. And today in the modern world, apartment complexes just keep and continue getting more appealing. They're more aesthetically appealing. They're designed better. And if you think of that in the context of how we designed homes, single family homes, just 30 or 40 years ago, today's homes, the modern home is drastically better than the floor plans of the homes of old. It's much more common to see homes with 9-foot ceilings as opposed to just 8-foot ceilings. It's much more common to see open floor plans that are well thought out, where closets are positioned in the right place and the use of space is more efficient. There's less wasted space. So these are elements that are relevant in every housing segment or sector, but it's also super, super appealing to those in the rental markets as well. So think of it this way. If you're in your 20s and you're looking to go and, go out on your own and find a place to live, it's almost guaranteed you're going to be moving out into a rental first. Because let's be honest, housing affordability has reached a point where it's increasingly difficult for young people today to envision themselves being able to buy a home, especially in their 20s. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't happen. It absolutely does happen. I've got clients right now, in fact, that are buying a house and they're 22 years old and 24 years old, and they're doing it because they have wonderful incomes and they can pull it off. Now, that's not everybody. Not everybody is in a sales job that just pays incredible salaries or commissions. And so we have to make sure that we address housing affordability, because as I always say in so many of my YouTube videos, I believe that the greatest threat to Utah's future is housing affordability. And while these 15-minute cities offer a lot of amenities, and they are certainly sold with the pretext that there's so many things to love about it and it's all perfect and rosy, there's also the negatives that we have to think about in terms of, do we want our young people to just rent and rent forever? We obviously don't want that. We want people to have ownership in the places where they live, because that's honestly one of the best ways to build wealth over time for the vast majority of Americans. Now, for some people, it's not a wise investment to buy a house if you feel like you can take your funds and your money and invest it in better ways, because there are ways to make more money than in real estate, but you still need a place to live. And so for the vast majority of Americans, owning your home or owning the place where you live is paramount to building wealth. And the numbers prove that. I hope more than anything else that my children and grandchildren in the future will be able to afford to live in this great state that I call home, because I love it so very much. So housing affordability is the number one driver behind these types of communities. It's precisely why these communities will fill up so quickly, because there are so many people that are needing these types of communities to live in so that they can actually get out on their own and figure out what they want to do with their lives and live the life they want to live. Ultimately, housing affordability, if you compare from the early 80s to today, the average salary that it takes in order to purchase a place to live today is quite a bit higher. It's 10 times your annual salary, as opposed to 4 times your annual salary back then. So we can't really compare the two eras in terms of, sometimes we might talk to an older person that thinks, well, maybe they're a Gen Xer or a boomer that thinks, well, back when I bought a house in 1980, I bought it with 19% interest, and you guys are complaining about 6% or 7%. Come on, get over it. Just go buy a house. Well, when in fact, buying that $80,000 home with a $20,000 annual salary was much more achievable than buying a $500,000 or $600,000 home today, which is the median home price, with just a $60,000, $70,000, or $80,000 salary. You can see the disparagement between the two, and this is precisely why things have gotten so much less affordable over time. I also believe that housing affordability is going to play a role moving forward to a great degree that's going to spur these types of developments, not only Utah City and The Point, but we're likely going to see many others pop up as well. I think it's going to happen because our population, especially here in the state of Utah, we have the youngest population in the nation. We also have the largest average home or family size as well. And so the natural increase in population here in Utah is going to get us continuing to grow. But we also have become such an incredibly popular place for people to move to from all over the country and even the world because of what Utah provides. Now, all of these things come into play, and what it looks like in the future, back when I was born with 1.3 million residents compared to today where we have 3.6 million residents, in another 15 to 20 years, we're going to have over 5 or even 5.5 million residents. And so there is one constant here in Utah, and that is change and growth. Growth is constant. We're not going to see this shut down. And in fact, if we were to stop building, we would only hurt ourselves even further by seeing our home prices skyrocket that much more. And ultimately, if my goal is that my children and grandchildren and future posterity can actually live here, that's not the answer to the question. So we do have to have communities like these 15-minute cities that can really magnify and utilize this land wisely to provide housing for a lot of people, but it's not the only answer. There's not one answer to the housing affordability crisis. Yes, we have to build a lot more starter homes, which we just really haven't done in the last 20 years. Think about that. We build homes that should be kind of the stepping stone home, the second home for people, or the third home, not necessarily that starter home. And I think it's really crucial that we get on board with building starter homes again. We don't build them anymore, not only in Utah, but in this country. We've pretty much stopped building starter homes. So I think that's crucial. I think that's one component. I think another component is opening up federal land adjacent to the population centers, specifically land that's not, even remotely close to a national park or a state park or any other attraction. And a perfect example of this is down in Eagle Mountain in Utah County. There's a massive piece of land just to the east of the population areas that are really booming in Eagle Mountain. And if that land were opened up and we could build more and more down there, it really alleviates the demand in the other areas throughout the state, including Utah County, and it helps real estate prices stabilize. Now, luckily, over this last year, we've seen real estate prices really remain at bay. And I think this is really healthy because we can't see these prices continue to increase. In fact, on the topic of housing affordability, the worst thing we could probably do is to pull that lever too far and to overreact to the point where housing prices crash. The hope here is that we stop housing prices from going up more and more so that the rest of the markets and life can catch up, including your income, so that we can then build a healthy market again. It's been a little out of balance, so to speak, and people are feeling it every single day. I have conversations with people that are looking or wanting to buy a home, and they don't feel a lot of hope that they can do so. And I talk to people that want to sell their home, but when they compare their 3% or 2.5% interest rate on their mortgage that they pulled in 2021 for a home that they only have a loan of $250,000 on, for them to go buy their second home, it just makes no sense. Their monthly payment skyrockets, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of people. So housing affordability is certainly a big part of it. I also believe as we move forward and progress into the coming years, as the market has cooled off, this is really healthy, but it's going to heat up again. We don't know when that's going to be. Perhaps it's this coming year, but as it does heat up again, what are we going to do to prepare now so that we have the inventory and the supply to offset that increased demand as those interest rates come down? And the best way to think of this is when interest rates come down, demand for those houses goes way up. So we have to make sure that we balance that accordingly. And we have to prepare now. We have to do things now so that we have the supply needed when the time happens. Okay. the next question I wanted to pose in terms of these 15-minute cities, and please drop a comment, let me know your thoughts, is are these 15-minute cities good for Utah? Are they good for us as a people, as a population? Does it do more harm than good? I think these are relevant conversations to have. So drop a comment. We can continue to have those conversations in the comment section. I do everything I need to make sure that I reply to each and every comment on my channel. And as I do so, I sometimes get behind about a week or so, but I catch up always. But I read and reply to every single comment. And so drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts, whether they're positive or negative. The other thing, let's see, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this kind of hit my radar this morning as I was scrolling the local news and making sure that I was up to date with the local building departments, as well as the publications that put out information about what's coming to Utah. This really caught my attention. So it's kind of fun too. I think it's pretty fun. So this particular, let me pull this up on my screen. Let's see here. This kind of really fascinated me. Let me pull, there we go. Come on. Here we go. There we go. So this was fascinating. This is a local news outlet, the Salt Lake Tribune, that says, could Utah become the center of the pickleball universe? A first of its kind complex seeks to make that a reality. And you can see this rendering of this pickleball court. And the funny thing is, this development, this project is happening right in the city where I live in South Jordan, which is funny because I see countless people playing pickleball, and pickleball courts are popping up in communities all over the state of Utah. It feels like pickleball has taken over about 5 other sports for pretty much anybody from their 20s all the way up into their 60s and beyond. Pickleball has taken over Utah. And evidently, Utah is kind of the epicenter of professional pickleball, which is actually called Major League Pickleball. In fact, I had a neighbor in my previous home, a next door neighbor, who she got really into pickleball, and she actually became and is a professional pickleball player. So have you ever played pickleball? I love it. My kids absolutely love playing pickleball, but I wouldn't say I'm anywhere close to a professional level. But this is pretty cool to see this coming, and it really sets Utah apart and separates what we have here, from the sea of sameness that we see in so many communities. So I think this is kind of cool. This project will have 47 courts, including 2 that will be able to seat more than 1,000 spectators each. And this is for professional matches. And I think that's pretty cool. It's located just off of 110th South. In fact, let me pull up my map and share where this is going specifically. If I go back up to Salt Lake County and I go right up in here along the I-15 corridor in South Jordan, right here in South Jordan, there's this big piece of land right here. And this is where it's going to go. This is where it's going to be built with 47 courts, including 2 stadium style courts that'll seat over 1,000 people each, which is kind of crazy. I can't believe that. It's kind of fun to see that happen. This is it's a private project. It's funded privately. It's going to cost about $25 million to build this. And it's the first indoor venue for pickleball, professional pickleball, that's anywhere like this, anywhere in the country. That's pretty crazy. And it's being built right here in Utah. So if you're a pickleball player, this could be another reason to make the move to Utah, especially if you're a major league pickleball player or professional pickleball player. Oh, let me show you the rendering of the outside. So here's the rendering of the outside of the facility, which is kind of cool. I think it's, let me show this to you. There we go. So this is the rendering of the outside of the facility. So yeah, pickleball, evidently it's a big thing here. I know that in terms of sports, pickleball is really big here, as well as soccer and, to a great degree, basketball. But honestly, all sports are kind of popular here with the youth, especially soccer. But pickleball evidently is on the rise. I think that's pretty cool. Now, the last thing I wanted to do is address other questions in terms of what I'm going to be doing here on my live videos in the future, because this is something I'm doing each and every week endlessly to make sure that I'm providing the value that you need, to make sure that you're learning what you need to learn about the state of Utah and where we are in terms of what's happening, what are the pros, what are the negatives, what are the concerns we have as a people. I create content each and every week that I deep dive into some projects. In fact, just this last week, I posted a video about the Rio Grande plan in downtown Salt Lake City along the west side of the city. I think that plan is going to happen in the future. I really do. I think it's going to get enough traction and actually materialize. I think it's going to happen as well in part due to perhaps funding that could come from the Olympics. So we'll see if that actually plays out. I'm hopeful that it does, because I don't see a whole lot of negatives, but I see a whole lot of positives regarding that particular development. I also shared videos right here on my channel about the different cities and metropolitan areas or developments, just like The Point. I did a pretty in-depth video months and months ago about this development, The Point. But now that construction is actually broken ground and they're actually building in The Point, it's about that time where I need to get out there on site and take my camera with me and do more video content around it. The other thing that I really love sharing on the channel is information around communities. Now, one of those videos that I've recently posted on my channel regarding a massive 8,000 home community in Eagle Mountain named Firefly. This particular video I posted, I believe, a month or two ago, but that video's gotten a lot of phone calls. So if you're looking for a specific community, reach out to me. I have all of the information regarding these communities. And specifically with this one massive community in Eagle Mountain known as Firefly, there's a few things to really know in order to navigate purchasing in this neighborhood. And one of those things is a PID. It's a property tax levy on an improvement district within the neighborhood or the community that promises to provide the amenities and the infrastructure for that community to remain and improve and be approved upon over time. Now, it costs a little bit less in property taxes on average for this particular development in Eagle Mountain. A single family home is going to see an increase in their property taxes by about $350 per year. So that's something worth noting. $30 per month is going to cover the additional costs of owning a property, a single family home in this neighborhood. I think that that's a pretty fair trade-off, given that I know and understand the amenities and the things that are coming to this community. It also ties the community itself with the county to make sure that those things are actually happening. I haven't seen a terrible example of this happening in Utah thus far, although I can see how this could happen elsewhere. But in Utah, I have yet to see one of these particular types of developments go south to the point where the residents are just up in arms. So long as you receive more in value than the payment that they receive, I think it's a fair equation and a fair balance in terms of exchange in value. So does the amenity package, does the infrastructure that supplies the growth in the very community that you're paying for that extra amount of money provide you the value that you're looking for, with respect to how much money that really is? So for $30 a month, is it worth it to you to live in an amazing community that's well thought out with all the amenities and the infrastructure coming? Well, that's fair to say that it's not for some and it is for others, but it's worth understanding for sure. So in addition to sharing what's happening in the state of Utah with respect to developments and news and updates, it's communities. Because as I always say when people are making the move here, it's first and foremost important to find the right community before you go find a home. And I truly believe that at my core. You can find a great home pretty much anywhere, depending on what you're looking for. The question is, are you going to be in the right landing place? And that starts with having a really good, honest dialogue back and forth to make sure that we can understand your goals and where you're coming from, to make sure that it's a good experience and a good fit, to make sure you're landing in the right spot. Now, my team and I are here to serve you. We dedicate ourselves to making sure that we know everything that's happening in the state of Utah that's relevant to buying and owning real estate. So if you are looking at making a move within the state of Utah, or you're looking to move here, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. I say that in each and every video that I do, but I really do mean that. We really take this seriously. We're here to serve you and to make this experience as awesome as possible. And I would love it if you would take the time to hit that subscribe button, because as I look through the data and the analytics on my YouTube channel, I've noticed that over 90% of the people that watch my videos, and I get a lot of people watching my videos, over 90% aren't subscribed. And it helps me tremendously if you take just 3 seconds to just pause and just go down and hit that subscribe button, because it means the world to me. It helps me get in front of more people just like you. So if you're watching this video now or in the future, please hit that subscribe button if you feel like I've earned it. And as always, if you're looking to learn more about life in Utah, just check out my playlists here on my channel and stay tuned for next week's live video, and bring some comments with you, as I love sharing information and answering questions back and forth. And until the next time, actually, hold on. Let me make sure that I get back to my screen here. I should have done all. Now I don't know what I'm doing. Evidently, I still haven't mastered this software. With all that said, please reach out to me if you have any questions. And until next week's video, thanks, guys.